Part 1. The perfect day. Sydney woke slowly that morning. Sunlight spilling across the harbor like nothing in the world could go wrong. Laura Bennett stood in front of the mirror, holding her breath as her sister zipped up the back of her wedding dress. "Don't move," Emma said. "If you breathe too deeply, I swear this zipper will betray us." Laura laughed nervously. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Soft curls framed her face, makeup flawless, eyes bright with the kind of hope people only allow themselves once or twice in life. Today, she was marrying Daniel Harper, the man she believed was safe. How they met. Laura met Daniel 3 years earlier, at a charity event downtown. She had attended reluctantly, dragged there by coworkers after a long week. He'd been standing alone near the drinks table, awkward but kind, making quiet jokes that felt genuine instead of rehearsed. He listened when she spoke, really listened, after years of dating men who treated conversations like competitions. Daniel felt different, gentle, patient, reliable. Their relationship moved slowly at first. Coffee dates turned into weekend trips. Movie nights became shared routines. Within a year, he had moved into her apartment. Laura's friends approved immediately. "He's calm," Emma once told her. "You need calm," Laura agreed. Daniel never raised his voice, never disappeared overnight, never gave her a reason to doubt him. At least, not one she noticed. The proposal happened on a quiet beach outside the city. No crowd, no dramatic speech, just Daniel kneeling in the sand at sunset, hands shaking slightly as he opened a small velvet box. "I don't want a perfect life," he said. "I just want one with you." Laura cried before she could answer. Yes came easily. Looking back later, she would replay that moment endlessly, searching for hesitation in his eyes. But on that day, all she saw was love. Wedding morning. The bridal suite buzzed with laughter and nerves. Champagne glasses clinked while makeup artists moved around like choreographed dancers. Laura's mother wiped tears every few minutes. "You look exactly how I imagined," she whispered. Laura felt warmth spread through her chest. Outside, guests were arriving. The venue overlooked the water. White chairs lined perfectly along the aisle. Everything was exactly as she dreamed. Daniel had texted earlier, "Can't wait to see you. I'm the luckiest man alive." She smiled when she reread it. Small signs. There had been moments, of course, tiny things she dismissed. Daniel occasionally turned his phone face down. Late work meetings that ran longer than expected. A sudden habit of stepping outside to take calls. But relationships required trust, and Laura trusted him. 2 weeks before the wedding, she'd even asked jokingly, "You're not getting cold feet, are you?" He laughed and pulled her close. Never. She believed him completely. The ceremony. The music began. Laura stepped onto the aisle, arm linked with her father's. Everything blurred except Daniel standing at the altar. He looked emotional, eyes shining. When she reached him, he squeezed her hands tightly. "You're stunning," he whispered. The vows felt surreal, promises spoken clearly, witnessed by family and friends. When they kissed, applause erupted. Laura felt relief more than excitement. They had made it. Forever had officially begun. The reception hall glowed with warm lights and soft music. Guests laughed, glasses clinked, speeches flowed easily. Daniel seemed relaxed, moving between tables confidently. He kissed Laura often, wrapped an arm around her waist, played the perfect groom. Everything looked right. But halfway through dinner, Laura noticed something strange. Daniel checked the entrance repeatedly, not casually, anxiously. "Are you expecting someone?" she asked. He shook his head too quickly, just making sure everyone found the place. She let it go. The night continued. Dancing, laughter, photographs. Then the doors opened again, and everything changed. The Aravala woman stood at the entrance, dark hair slightly messy, black dress wrinkled like she'd dressed in a hurry. She looked unsure whether she belonged there. Laura assumed she was a late guest, until she noticed Daniel, his face drained of color. The woman walked slowly toward the tables, scanning the room until her eyes landed on Laura. Something about her expression felt raw. Jealousy, confusion, and heartbreak. She grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing tray and drank it in one motion. The music kept playing. No one noticed yet. Laura watched as the woman moved closer, and steady but determined. Then suddenly, she stood up beside the head table, raised her glass, and spoke. "You're beautiful," she said, looking directly at Laura. The room quieted slightly. Then she added softly, "He told me about you when he was with me." Silence fell across the reception hall. Laura felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Daniel didn't move, didn't speak, didn't deny it, and in that moment, Laura understood something before anyone explained it. This woman wasn't just a guest, she was the truth no one expected to arrive. For a moment, no one moved. The music faded awkwardly as the DJ lowered the volume. Unsure whether this was part of the celebration or a mistake, Laura felt every eye in the room shift between her, Daniel, and the woman standing beside the table. "He told me about you," the woman repeated, her voice quieter now. "He said you were important to him." Daniel finally stood. "Emily," he whispered sharply. "Not here." The name landed like a stone. Laura turned slowly toward him. "You know her." It wasn't a question. Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came out. The room changed. Guests began murmuring. Chairs scraped against the floor. Laura's mother stood halfway up, confused and frightened. Emily laughed nervously, the sound trembling. "I didn't know this was today," she said. "I thought he was working late again." Laura's heartbeat roared in her ears. "What is she talking about?" she asked Daniel. He reached for her hand. She pulled away. The truth began. Emily swallowed and looked directly at Laura. "We've been together for 8 months. Gasps rippled through nearby tables. Laura felt strangely calm, like watching someone else's life from a distance. Daniel shook his head quickly. "It's not like that." Emily turned toward him, disbelief replacing confusion. "Like what?" "You stayed at my apartment 3 nights ago." The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Laura remembered that night clearly. Daniel had told her he was finalizing wedding arrangements with vendors, details no one could. Fakimili pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "I wouldn't have come if I knew," she said softly to Laura. "I swear, I thought he was leaving you." Laura stared at the screen she held up. Photos. Daniel smiling in another kitchen. Daniel holding takeaway coffee beside a window. Laura didn't recognize. A selfie of the two of them. Close, comfortable, real. The timestamps were recent. Pain arrived slowly, like cold water rising. Not explosive, just undeniable. Daniel's panic. "Stop," Daniel said, voice breaking. "This isn't the place." Laura laughed once, a sound that didn't feel like hers. "Oh, now you care about timing?" He ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting around the room. Guests were openly staring now, phones discreetly recording, whispered conversations spreading like wildfire. Daniel turned to Emily. "You weren't supposed to come." Emily blinked. "I came because you stopped answering." Silence. Again, the Timolinera asked the question quietly. "When?" Daniel hesitated. Emily answered instead. "Last October." Laura's stomach dropped. October was when Daniel had started working late. More often, October was when he insisted on separate bachelor and bachelorette weekends. October was when he first began locking his phone. Every small memory rearranged itself into something ugly. The realization. Laura suddenly understood why Daniel had looked nervous all evening. He wasn't emotional about marrying her, he was afraid. Afraid two worlds would collide. And they had. The guests react. Laura's father stepped forward, jaw tight. "Son," he said coldly, "you need to explain yourself." Daniel looked trapped. "I made a mistake," he said. Emily's face hardened. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary," she said. "Not planning a wedding while telling someone else you love them." The room fell completely silent. Laura felt heat rise behind her eyes, but refused to cry out here in front of everyone. The breaking point. She turned to Daniel. "Did you love her?" He hesitated. That hesitation said everything. Laura nodded slowly. "'Kay." She removed her wedding ring. The small sound of metal touching the table echoed louder than any argument. Gasps filled the room. Daniel reached forward desperately. Laura, wait, she stepped back. No, she said calmly. You waited too long. The exit. Laura picked up the front of her dress and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted automatically. Behind her, voices rose, arguments, accusations, chairs moving, Emily crying, Daniel pleading, but the noise faded as soon as she stepped outside. Cool night air hit her face. For the first time since the woman spoke, Laura allowed herself to breathe. Her perfect wedding still glowed behind her. Through the windows, music resumed awkwardly. Inside, life continued, just without her future in it. One last reveal as she reached the parking area. Footsteps hurried behind her. Emily, I'm so sorry, she said, tears streaming. I didn't know. Laura studied her. For the first time, she didn't see an enemy, just another person who had been lied to. Neither did I, Laura said quietly. Emily hesitated. There's something else, she whispered. Laura closed her eyes briefly. Course there was. What? Emily's voice shook. He told me he already married you last month. Privately. Laura froze. That was impossible. The ceremony today was supposed to be their legal wedding unless Daniel had been lying to both of them in ways neither understood. Yet, Part 3, the ending he didn't expect. Laura didn't go back inside. She sat in her car, wedding dress spilling across the seat, trying to understand how a day meant to begin forever had ended before the cake was even cut. Emily stood beside her quietly. He told me you were already legally married, Emily said again. He said today was just for family. Laura's stomach dropped. The next morning confirmed everything. Daniel had secretly signed preliminary marriage paperwork weeks earlier, rushing documents under the excuse of venue requirements. Laura had trusted him and signed without reading closely. He hadn't just lied emotionally, he had tried to secure both lives legally. When Laura confronted him one last time, he looked smaller than she had ever seen him. I didn't want to lose either of you, he said. That was the moment she finally understood. He never chose love. He chose comfort. Laura filed for annulment immediately. Emily left the city soon after, cutting all contact with Daniel. Within months, the man who tried to build two futures was left with none. 6 months later, Laura returned to the harbor alone. No dress, no expectations, just peace. For the first time, she didn't feel embarrassed about what happened. She felt free, because the wedding hadn't ruined her life. It had saved it.